exciting. But before we get into the episode and all the exciting things that we have to talk about, let's tell you about the Bella Freight Company. Bella Freight is a company that that has sponsored our podcast all season. As goofy and as crazy as the two of us are, they stand by us, and we just love the heck out of them. Bella Freight is a company that will take your wide loads, heavy loads, big loads, whatever, your freight from one end of the country to the other, one state to the next, whatever you have that you need to haul, to send on the road, to travel, Bella Freight will take care of you. The premier freight company. Check out Bella Freight. Do a Google search, Bella Freight, or the best way to check them out is on Facebook. Give them a like, follow, comment on Facebook. They would love to interact, talk with you, and schedule your next freight travel tomorrow. Check them out. Actually, today. Check them out today. Bella Freight. Get your wide load taken care of. Check out Bella Freight.
Yeah, you guys. And if you seriously need somewhere for your next big event, whether it be a Christmas party or, I don't know, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, anything, a bachelorette party, a wedding shower, a bridal shower, a baby shower, really any showers that might happen in your life. The Loft Apex Hall. It's a beautifully restored third floor building in downtown Circleville. There is a freight elevator that gets you up there, so you don't even have to walk up the stairs. Don't worry about it. Just take the elevator up. You can have it catered so you can get up to that third floor and the food's already ready to go. Or maybe you just need some nice family Christmas photos and you need a place to get that done. The Loft at Pex Hall. It's beautiful. You and all 17 of your kids can have the best wedding pictures you've ever taken. Photographer not included.
Could be up to the offensive line. No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jenkins! Holy Buckeye! Tebow straight ahead into the end zone, and the Gators have put this one on ice.
Hello, and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This is a college football podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for squeezing us into your busy schedule. We are forever grateful. Thank you to our sponsors, and thank you to Press Play Podcast Network, the network that this podcast is a part of. We just love the heck out of those guys. Thank you so much for believing in us and supporting us. And Tim, a lot of just weird things going on in college football. Ohio State obviously was stagnant this last week. We parked it because of some COVID scares. I have some frustrations that I'd like to share about that. But what about the Gators? They played, didn't
they? Yes, they did. As you know, not only did they play, but they handled Kentucky. Not an overly impressive win, but they did what they had to do. The biggest thing is Kyle Pitts is back, and he is leading all college football in touchdowns with only 6 games.
Sure. Yeah, it helps when you have a quarterback that can throw you the ball. And yeah, he's going to be good. He's going to be good at the next level. I don't know who I'd compare him to because he's such a good hybrid tight end wide receiver, but he's going to be good. That's a pretty impressive stat. So Florida came in. We're recording this right after the college football playoff committee came in. Tim, are you still okay with that number 6 spot behind A&M?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. The bottom line is it doesn't matter because all it comes down to is Florida versus Alabama. Assuming we win out, that's really where it comes down to. We have to win that game. My only issue is, and this is where I want to get your involvement. Yeah. Also, Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelce, pretty good comparison there.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I really want to get your input in is at what point do we have to say a 1-loss team who's played 9 games is better than a 4-0 team?
Sure. So all right. So here's what I'd like to, if Ohio State plays Texas A&M tomorrow, I think Ohio State's a 2-touchdown favorite. If Ohio State plays Florida tomorrow, I think Ohio State is a 3-point favorite. If Ohio State plays any other team besides the top three teams, I think they are going to be favored. And so really what the college football committee has to look at, they've already said there's no minimum number of games. And so they just have to look at who's the trigger man? Who's the coach? Ohio State has everything they need. They're scoring with anybody. There's not a team they're going to score with any team. And so if I was in your position, I'd be saying the same thing, that a 4-0 team doesn't deserve to be there, which I don't think Ohio State's going to be 4-0. I think they're going to at least be able to play one more game. They really got to ball out. I don't know. They need to ball out, but so it's just a strange year. So if you want to judge it by the number of games played or who they've played or whatever, you can. But my hope is the committee's going to judge this by, this team has all the tools necessary to beat almost anyone in the country. But
my response to you be based on what? They have only played one team who actually is decent. Out of the 4 games they've won, Indiana was the only team who's even decent. So how do we know this Ohio State team is that good versus Notre Dame, who's 9-0, Alabama 8-0, Clemson 8-1? There's a question mark. Okay, I'll accept that. How can you absolutely say Ohio State is that good? You've admitted there's questions on their defense.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, yes, they can score points, but so can Florida. So how can you say definitively Ohio State in their 4-0 against Indiana is better than Florida with their 7-1 record?
I probably can't say it definitively. I can just say it by, I've watched both teams play, and I believe they're neck and neck. I believe that it would be a coin flip. That's it. I completely understand what you're saying. When I look at Ohio State, I think they are a top 4 team just by what I see.
And I know obviously you're going to support Ohio State too. And I'm not not disagreeing with you there. I'm just saying part of this is too, if you're saying a team is neck and neck, in my opinion, you at that point, I know this is a weird year and I know that it's all very unique and we're going with it. We're learning as we go. But my perspective on this is I don't want to punish the players. I don't want to punish Ohio State as a team for the schedule and the way that their schedule was given to them. What I do say is punish the Big Ten, punish the Pac-12 for not doing what the SEC did, what the ACC did, and playing more games and starting earlier. They're saying, well, we're going to start later because it'll be better. That's obviously been proven wrong. So at this point, I'm saying punish the conference. Tell them you didn't do enough this year to earn your way in. Now, put an asterisk by the season if you need to. That's fine. But I'm saying give the teams who played credit. If you're saying Florida and Ohio State or Texas A&M and Ohio State are comparable, even Cincinnati, if you think they are a comparable team as far as talent on the field right now, give the benefit to the teams who have played twice as many games, put themselves out there, put themselves, quote unquote, at risk. I say give those teams the benefit of the doubt, put them in the playoff over the team who played minimal games.
Yeah, and here's what I'll say is that if Florida beats Alabama, Florida will be in and Ohio State will be out. That's I think if Ohio State fans are rooting for Alabama and they're rooting for Notre Dame, because if Florida beats Alabama, Florida's in, Ohio State's out. If Clemson comes back and beats Notre Dame in a close game, Notre Dame's in, Ohio State's out. So Ohio State, they need things to work out for them to be in. They need the teams who hopefully are not better than them to lose so that they can have an undefeated record going into it, and the eyeball test is enough. Because like I said, you put Ohio State up against Texas A&M, I think the committee is going to look at Ohio State as a better team and put them in. Put Ohio State against Cincinnati, same thing. Ohio State, it's Notre Dame, it's Florida. Those are the only 2 teams that could compete with Ohio State at this point. Otherwise, I think Ohio State deserves to be in.
Yeah, well, and it's a weird year. Obviously, I know that, but I don't know. I look at these teams. The other thing is if the Big Ten changes their rules to say, well, I know we said you had to play this minimum games to be eligible for the conference championship, but that doesn't work for us now. So now we're going to change that so Ohio State can get in the conference championship to make them look better for the playoff. At that point, I think the committee has to look at that too and take that seriously into consideration and say, you change your rules to make one team eligible. That's a problem for me.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I think they should stick with the rules. I'm not a flip-flopper kind of guy. At least, well, unless it comes to my who's in top 4. But mostly, I don't like to flip-flop all that much. But I think they should stick to the rules. These are the stupid rules that they put in place. Where I do have a problem is they changed the rules after Ohio State already canceled a game. When Ohio State canceled Maryland, that's when the following week they came out and said, well, if another team cancels 2, then you can play them.
Right.
We could have potentially had a game that week if that rule wasn't in place, and we wouldn't be only 4-0. We'd be at least 5-0. And so that's the hill, the ditch that I will die in, is that was wrong, that they shouldn't change the rules after the fact. And so the Big Ten just butchered this from the beginning. They are a complete joke. And Kevin Warren, you got to go. He's got to go. This is just getting ridiculous. But also what's driving me crazy are teams opting out. So the Big Ten has the most strict COVID rules, right? They have testing every day, rapid testing, testing before, testing after. Coaches have to wear masks on sideline. I think everyone has to wear masks on sideline. But Big Ten has the most strenuous COVID rules. And these players are getting sick. But even according to the Big Ten rules, these teams should still play. Ohio State didn't have enough positive COVID tests to cancel the game, and they still did. Maryland didn't have enough positive COVID tests, and they still canceled the game. They should play these games. Like, if they're not going to hit the threshold for even the Big Ten to say that you shouldn't play, then get your booties out on the field and let's play this football game. Like, I think it's just a matter. So my hope is that Ohio State canceled the Illinois game so that they could play the Michigan State and Michigan game. I think by canceling the Illinois game, which, it's Illinois, like, it would have helped getting our backups in the third quarter, but you would rather play Michigan State and have a chance at Michigan. Now, Michigan has some positive COVID tests. Kirk Herbstreit, he apologized for this later. I don't know if you saw it, but he said that he could see Michigan waving the white flag and saying, we don't want to play Ohio State because we don't want to get embarrassed, and just opting out and forcing Ohio State to not be in the Big Ten championship game. So I think it was probably a stupid thing. It's like, get in as many games as you can, because these cancellation, like, a lot of this is out of your hands. And so Ohio State needed to play against Illinois, quarantine the people that needed to be quarantined, and get your players on the field. Like, that just drives me nuts that they canceled.
Yeah, well, and my understanding was they canceled it as a precaution because their numbers were going up, and so they were saying, let's go ahead and pause right now and freeze everything how it is for another week in hopes that they continue the rest of the season, while they only had one of the 2 criteria met to absolutely have to shut down. But they were trending toward that direction. So I said, let's go ahead and pause now. So I guess I get it, but I agree.
I don't like it. Like, if that's true, then fine. But I'm not really buying it. Like, I think that, I don't know why they canceled. I think it was like a preemptive thing to prepare for the next 2, to hope to get to play the next 2 weeks. But I think it's stupid. I'm annoyed. I'm incredibly annoyed with this whole thing. But this is the 2020 year that we're up against. So,
and the good news is Florida did get to play.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit, if you're good with that. I don't know if you heard, but Pitt scored all 3 touchdowns for the Florida offense this week. Kyle Trask, another ho-hum 3-touchdown game. What's interesting is, and I love it, is at this point he had 256 yards and 3 touchdowns from Kyle Trask, all 3 to Kyle Pitts, back from his concussion against Georgia. That was a blatant bad play from the Georgia defense. But anyway, but 256 yards and 3 touchdowns. At this point, I love the fact that people are looking at that and like, oh, what's wrong with Kyle Trask? Why did he only have 3 touchdowns and 256 yards? He's actually ahead of the numbers over the past 3 seasons to win the Heisman.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking, and through this amount of games, and he's only played against the SEC. He hasn't had these non-conference games to start the year that, every quarterback in the last 3 seasons has had the advantage of having. So his numbers are just absolutely incredible. And I think he is getting more and more momentum towards the Heisman, as long as, of course, he has to be Tennessee and LSU, and then I would say he really has to be Alabama in the
What he
conference
does
championship.
against Alabama, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, right now I think Fields is out. He doesn't have a good enough resume to be considered. So it's really between Jones, Trask, and Trevor Lawrence. Like, I think it's a 3-man race.
Yeah, so I agree. I think it's between these 3 guys because of the amount of games they've played. I think that you're right. Justin Fields, unfortunately, he hasn't played enough. I mean, his numbers just aren't there. I mean, it's in his last game against Indiana weren't good enough, I would say. So I think he is far behind. He has a lot of ground to make up. And really, I think it's between even Trevor Lawrence, I think he's a step behind Mac Jones right now and Kyle Trask for the lead to win the Heisman. So, but overall, I think that you look at Kyle Trask's numbers, his season has been just absolutely unbelievable. I think he is in the lead right now. And Kentucky gives him some credit in the first half, especially. Their whole game plan was basically like, we're just going to run this clock down and keep Kyle Trask off the field. And they did a pretty good job. And I think the second half they got worn down and Florida just started pulling away. But they played decent. And for a team that doesn't have a good quarterback at all, they ran the ball and just tried to wear Florida's defense down. They did a pretty good job in the first half. And then you'll see right at the end of the first half, Dan Mullen absolutely went off on Grantham, the defensive coordinator, in front of everybody, including the cameras, and you could see it. He is wearing his mask. I don't know what he was saying, but he is going off on Grantham. And in the second half, all of a sudden you saw all these adjustments, and you saw the defense just shut them down time after time after time. And it was a completely different game in the second half. And I think it was a clear message that Mullen was trying to send to the players, like, we're not blaming you. This is a coaching issue. And I think and I really believe that we will see a different defense the rest of the way from this year based on what you saw from there. And Grantham's on the hot seat. I think he understands that if he doesn't step it up, he might not be there next year. So it's exciting for me to see. And I expect a better defense in the next few games.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Alabama 100%. So I'm rooting for Mac Jones, and I am rooting for your defense to look like poo and for your defensive coordinator to lose his job. So speaking of coaches losing their jobs, Vanderbilt dropped their coach this last week after a really heroic show of putting a female out there to make a kick. How on earth could you fire such a woke individual in today's atmosphere, Tim?
Well, unfortunately, no matter how woke you are, and no matter how smart you are in those situations, Mason just didn't win games. They haven't won a game this year. His record since he took over for James Franklin has just been embarrassing. And to be fair, I don't think this is a job people want. Vanderbilt, nobody wants this job. They have the worst facilities in the conference. Of the Power Five, they probably have the worst facilities in the entire Power Five, with the exception of maybe Kansas, and maybe not even that. They don't have good facilities. They don't put money into it. They just don't. It's not a priority for them. You look at and granted, Vanderbilt is an academic school. They're a private school. They have high academic standards, but they are no higher than Stanford for sure, and they're not higher than Northwestern. I would say they're on the same level as Northwestern. The difference is Northwestern has put a lot of money into their campus and into their academic and athletic facilities. So Vanderbilt's basically saying, we're not going to put money into this. What we have is what we have. Come here if you want. And they're not going to have a winning tradition until they put more money into the situation. That's just where the culture is these days. The players expect to have that, and they don't. So that's going to continue to be a problem. And Mason is the victim this time, but Franklin only stayed there for a couple of years because he's a smart man, and he knew when it was time to go.
Yeah, Franklin is smart in some ways, but not in close games. Not when the game's on the line. He's not very smart.
Well, as far as situational of knowing when to jump ship.
Right. So did you see the female kicker though? Did you see her kickoff?
I did. No comment.
But Tim, she got SEC Player of the Week, Special Teams Player of the Week,
Player of the Week,
Player of the Week. Yeah,
with our Gator. Thank you very much. Tony, you got the code. Did you see that? Not to change the subject, of course. Did you see that punt return by Tony?
No, I didn't.
Oh, Shipe, you missed. You need to look this up on YouTube, man.
All right.
So it's a punt. So it's like a minute left in the second quarter, and Tony is back to return, but he's not the primary return guy. So they have two guys back there, and the punter kicks out of his own end zone for Kentucky. So it looks like he's kicking it to the left side of the field when actually he kicks it to the right side. So the other guy like fair catches it. Actually, he's going to catch it. The ball's not even there. It's on the right side of the field. Tony catches it, returns it for a touchdown. Nobody had a clue. He juked two guys, walked into the end zone. Beautiful play.
It's kind of sneaky. So any player could like pretend to fair catch and it won't count. Like it.
No, because the ball wasn't going to him.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. The Vanderbilt punter was supposed to kick it to the left side. He kicked it to the right side by mistake, which left it wide open for Tony. So everybody's running to the left side of the field. The guy's like, yeah, it's coming to me. No, it wasn't. Tony's wide open on the right side of the field. Runs it back for the touchdown.
As a heads-up play.
It was beautiful. So that earned him co-SEC Special Teams Player of the Week with the kicker for Vanderbilt, who kicked one kick to start the second half at the 30-yard line.
Dude, she kicked it 30 yards. Oh my gosh.
First female ever in the Power 5.
Yeah, it's good for her. Good for her. Yeah. You ever seen a squib kick to start the second half, Tim, when you're still kind of in it?
I have not.
I know. Me either. It seemed pretty strange. Wonder why they did it like that.
It definitely was not to make a statement.
No, this was not a publicity stunt at all. So it seems like Florida is just going to skate by, get into the conference championship, and play Alabama. So it looks like everyone is just going to skate by. We're just kind of in cruise control right now, just watching the games to see what happens. Just not even to see what happens. We kind of all know what's going to happen, but just to see our players play, because every game that they get to play this year is an absolute gift. So speaking of gifts, Florida's been gifted Tennessee this week. They are 17.5-point favorites, Tim. Who are you going to pick this week?
Oh, honestly, taking Florida. We just found out one of the linebackers, their leading tackler for loss. No, it's sad, but he's a leading tackler for loss. He's a tie for the sacks this year. He was just arrested for drug and weapons charges, so he's been kicked off the team. Florida's favored by 17.5. I think Florida is going to just run over this Tennessee team. Earlier in the year, if you remember, I said this is a trap game for me.
Yeah.
But Tennessee has just absolutely fallen apart. I think their coach is on the hot seat at this point.
Oh yeah.
They are 2-5, and I think Florida's going to win this game by 30.
Yeah, I was thinking 28, but yeah, basically 30. I see it as a 4-touchdown victory for Florida, so I'm going with Florida as well. The next game, the only real game this week, which it means a lot for Ohio State. I worry that since Wisconsin is they're out. They're not going to make any conference championship. The next games are just formality. But we have Wisconsin is a 14-point favorite against Indiana. Now it is at Wisconsin, as much as that matters this year. 12 Indiana against 16 Wisconsin. Wisconsin's favored by 2 touchdowns. My turn to go on this one, and I'm going with Indiana.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I'm taking Wisconsin.
Yeah? Okay.
I don't know if you heard, Indiana's quarterback tore his ACL.
Penix,
he's out for the year.
Yeah.
So
no, I still keep it. I'm still going Indiana, because Indiana's defense is actually really, really good. And
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying
threw 3 picks last week. So, and what's Wisconsin playing for at this point? So I like Indiana. I don't like them to score as many points as they have been, but Penix, just like we saw with Ohio State in 2014 championship game, your quarterback is a product of the players on the field. I mean, he's only as good as the players on the field around him, and Indiana has some real talent, and they're well coached. So I like Indiana to probably win this game outright, not just keep it within the spread.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with who's throwing the ball for Indiana. I don't have a lot of confidence in that. I agree their defense is good, but you got to be able to score points. I think whoever's coming in for it, I don't even know who the backup quarterback is, but my assumption is he's going to have some turnovers, and Wisconsin will exploit that, and they're going to end up winning this game. I'm hoping by more than 14 points.
Risky. Okay. Number 4, Ohio State at unranked Michigan State. If this game gets played, Ohio State's favored by 24.5 points, even without their head coach, with everything going on, missing basically a week of practice, no game last week. They're coming in incredibly cold, 24.5-point favorites. Tim.
Well, I have Ohio State as favored by 24. I don't know where you got the half point, but either way, Ohio State's going to win this game by 40, so it won't matter. Michigan State with a big emotional win over Northwestern, it won't matter.
Yeah. I'm actually going Michigan State on this one. I think Michigan State will keep it close. Ohio State has shown that they will get ahead early, but then take their foot off the gas. So I think you're probably right in the first half. Ohio State will run away with it. But then I think, they let Rutgers back in the game. They let Indiana back in the game. I see that trend continuing this week with Michigan State keeping it within maybe even 10 points.
For the record, we going 24, 24.5, because that really does make a difference at this point in the game.
Oh, yeah, it definitely does. I had 24.5 on ESPN.
That's what I'm at, too. 24.
Oh, it is 24. Yep, it's 24. Okay. Yeah,
okay.
We'll go 24.
Either way, that's a very small issue, obviously. All right, well, that means we have two separate games, and that's huge for you because right now I'm up by 2 points after Alabama beat Auburn by more than 24.5 last week. And I was already up by 1, so now I'm up by 2 points going into this week.
Yeah, this is pretty crucial for me. I need both of them.
But the good news is you potentially could tie it this week if you win both of these games.
I know. I'm going to tie it this week. So the College Football Playoff Committee came out with their top 4, top 6, top 25, basically. So let's start with our who's in. And let's start at the bottom this week. I have Cincinnati coming in at number 6 still.
Cincinnati's also my number 6.
This is for me where they're going to end the season. And so mine is making less and less sense. But my hope is still there that a one-loss Notre Dame will get booted. And that's why I have Notre Dame at number 5.
Wow. I have Clemson at number 5. Mine is based on where we are right now. They still have to play Notre Dame to end the year. So I still have Clemson at number 5 right now.
Okay. If Clemson beats Notre Dame, where do they jump to?
If Clemson beats Notre Dame, that puts them definitely in the top 4.
Yeah.
I would say probably number 3.
3? And then who's in? You got Clemson 5, Cincinnati 6. Who's 4 for you?
Right now, Florida is number 4.
I have Bama at number 4. Obviously, they're going to end the season there. Florida's going to beat them in the SEC championship.
Makes sense.
Yep.
All right. My number 3 right now is OSU, but they're on that danger line of getting out of this conversation completely.
Okay. Florida, like I said, I see Florida beating Bama and jumping from 6 to 3 after the SEC championship game.
There's no way that happens.
Why?
If they beat Ohio State, they would not be number 3. They would be at least number 2.
Alabama? If Florida beats Alabama, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah. So in my mind, Ohio State takes care of business, Michigan State, Michigan. And then they play Northwestern in the championship game. Take care of business on all 3.
A Northwestern team who just lost to Michigan State.
Yeah, but
embarrassing.
Sure for them, but when Ohio State takes them down big time, Ohio State's going to jump up to number 2.
A 6 in Ohio State should not be number 2.
7 win Ohio State.
Oh man,
it's a big difference.
Okay.
And then Clemson's 1 for me. That's where they're going to end the season.
Well, I've always number 3, Notre Dame number 2, Alabama number 1.
I don't know why we do this different. We should both have the same criteria on this because it's pretty confusing.
Yeah, it is. That's all right. But I have a question for you that really is more important than anything else we've talked about today.
Okay.
So I don't know if you heard the rumors, but there are some ties right now with Matt Campbell being recruited to replace Harbaugh at Michigan. My question,
State?
The Iowa State coach, yes. The Iowa State coach, Matt Campbell, the rumor is Michigan is interested in him to replace Harbaugh. Mm-hmm. My question for you is, right now, what is a better job, Iowa State in the Big 12 or Michigan in the Big 10?
We're taking money out of this equation.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Facilities you just mentioned earlier are a big deal. Well, let's give all right. What makes let's give our criteria for the best coaching jobs. Okay. Chances to win, opportunities for championships, right?
Sure.
Is you're going to take a Power 5 over a non-Power 5 because you have opportunities to win championships and prestige. Okay.
Well, I think we can consider money as a factor here for sure, but I don't think it's, who can necessarily pay the most money, but like money is a factor.
Okay. Money, facilities, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Tradition.
I would say competition.
Yeah. Basically like conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, those to me right now are the biggest factors.
All right, so let's grade each one. Opportunity for championships. That's kind of goes with competition and conference, I think,
Sure.
when you're looking at 2 Power 5s. So I would give that lean to the Big 12. So Iowa State, I would give the nod there because I think when you're playing in the Big 12, you have less intense competition. You're not going against Ohio State every single year, last game of the season. And the pressure is not as high to win. The rivalry with Iowa State is what, Iowa? Like,
yeah, I don't even know.
Oklahoma, Iowa. Like the pressure to beat Michigan is huge. And beat Ohio State is huge at Michigan. And you don't get those kinds of pressures at Iowa State. So I'm going to go with opportunities for championships and basically competition conference to the Iowa State job there.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you there. I'm actually going to say the opportunity there is Michigan because I think that outside of Ohio State, I think that overall you don't have to deal with Texas, Oklahoma. And the biggest factor for me is I think the Big Ten in general gets more respect than the Pac-12. I don't think people expect anybody outside of Oklahoma to do well. We talked about this at the beginning of the year when I was saying Oklahoma State has a chance, and you're like, get out of here. They're terrible. They can't hold it up. And they didn't. And that wasn't, neither of us were surprised when Oklahoma didn't continue to win against not great competition. And that's kind of where the Big 12 is right now. I don't think Iowa State gets any real respect. And, there's a lot of coaches who were great coaches who were in even Division II schools. And as soon as they left and went to Power 5 schools, those schools fell apart. That's how I view Iowa State right now, where they are good because Matt Campbell is a good coach. Yeah. Now, if he goes to Michigan, what he basically has to say is, yes, Ohio State right now is a much better program than Michigan. But in his mind, at least, I would think that he could say, I'm the guy who can turn this around. Now, granted, the last 4 guys, I think he has the same challenge right now that I think Texas has, where nobody he's recruiting remembers him being a good program.
Right.
So that's a huge challenge for him. But at the same time, he's going to tie into what we talk about, the tradition. Mm-hmm. And he's going to say, I can make this team. All we have to do is get past Ohio State, and we are in the playoff. Whereas Iowa State is not going to get that level of respect.
I think it can get there. Iowa State, if they beat Oklahoma and they beat Texas, if he's as good of a coach as what it sounds like he is, what he seems to be at Iowa State, then he can eventually get there to be one of the power guys. Look at Iowa. Iowa, I think, is the second best team in the Big Ten this year. Like, they consistently put good teams on the field. They're always middle of the road. But the moment that they do have a good team, I think people will take them seriously. So I think in 10 years from now, is the Big 12 even a conference? Is Texas still in the Big 12?
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Money, I think it's obvious that Michigan, they're paying Harbaugh $9 million a year. They'll probably pay whoever comes in at least $7 million. So I think money, Michigan gets the lead there for sure.
Yeah. Facilities, I don't know. I honestly don't know the status of Iowa State facilities. I have no idea what Iowa State has, but I would hope Michigan can at least compete on that level with them.
Yeah, I would give the lean to Michigan. I don't know enough about their facilities either, but I mean, they have the largest stadium in like the world. I think it's like the third largest in the world, third largest arena in the world. So I would give the lean to Michigan on that one.
Yeah.
Tradition, I think, is Michigan.
Clearly, yeah. historically.
Yeah. And then conference. The better conference is the Big Ten. I think the better opportunities for winning is the Big 12.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. That's really what it comes down to, the differentiation between do you really think you can beat Ohio State? Because that's really what it comes down to is to win the Big Ten, it's going to go through Ohio State. To win the Pac-12, it's pretty much been Oklahoma. So, who is a bigger challenge?
Yeah.
Long term moving forward.
But I think every coach has that ego. They're going to come in and say, I'm going to be the coach that can turn Michigan around. It's just like every quarterback for the Browns for the last decade said, I'm going to be the quarterback that's going to be able to turn around the Browns. This, for the last decade, every coach has come in thinking that they're going to come in and beat Michigan. 2 decades, basically, when they've only got it done once when we had Tattoo Gate or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't see Michigan beating Ohio State for a long time. Especially have you seen Ohio State's recruiting right now? They have the number 1 quarterback, number 1 wide receiver. They're just picking apart the state of Texas. Ohio State is recruiting at a top level, so they're not going anywhere for a really long time. So I think Michigan, but the pressure is still going to be there for Michigan to beat Ohio State, and I don't think it's feasible.
No, and that's what the last 3 coaches have said that went to Michigan is I'm the guy who's going to be able to put them over the top and compete with Ohio State. And Brady Hoke? Are you kidding me right now?
He's the most competitive of all of them. Yeah,
that's embarrassing. Like, it just has not been at all what they said it was going to be. So, I mean, I agree. It really doesn't matter, but I just think it's an interesting conversation for Matt Campbell. Like, what do I want to do? So for him, I think really what it comes down to is going to be his arrogance versus his paycheck. Like, how much money does he want to make?
Right. Yeah, if I'm him and I'm offered the Michigan job, I take it. I think it's a better job than Iowa State. I think Iowa State's a stepping stone, just like, I don't know, Minnesota probably is for PJ Fleck or, whatever else. So I think I put Iowa State and probably Minnesota on the same level as far as job.
Quality. I think realistically, I think his best option is to hold out for maybe a USC.
Oh, really? Just to not even take the Michigan job at all if it's offered to him.
I mean, if he's comparing, which would you rather have, USC or Michigan?
I think they're both garbage jobs right now. I would go weather at this point and go with USC.
Right, Southern California weather, but also the competition. The Pac-12 is garbage just generally. I think USC is a much more competitive job conference-wise. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think that would be a better opportunity for him right now than Michigan.
Yeah.
Or
do you think is he the kind of coach though that will have his pick? Or who would you take him over Luke Fickell?
Well, Luke Fickell seems like he's pretty set where he is right now. He's not
but just hypothetically, if he coach quality wise.
I think so, because I think the problem with Fickell is he's a Midwest regional recruiter. I don't know that he has the stretch,
reach.
The reach. There we go. To be able to say, I can do the same thing I'm doing in Ohio and California.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we'll see. If Cincinnati can go undefeated, though, his name's going to get bigger. There's going to be a level of celebrity behind his name.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But he's not a super exciting guy. Like, he's a good coach, don't get me wrong, but he's not one of those guys. He's not a Pete Carroll. He's not an Urban Meyer. Exactly. He's not the guy who's like, I get super excited watching him. Like I was watching Dan Mullen do an interview, and they were asking him, what were you yelling about with your defensive coordinator? And Dan Mullen, right after this game, right? Like, he's doing this interview, and he said that guy put up his Christmas lights before Thanksgiving. and I just told him, like, you got to wait till after Thanksgiving to put those lights up. And it's just that kind of thing. Like, he just has it, you know? And so that's what I don't see that from Fickell. Like, he just real serious. Like, he's a good coach, but he doesn't have that it factor.
I think he'd be so you hear a lot of Ohio State players talk in the state of Ohio who've played for Luke Fickell, and they all just absolutely adore the guy. Like, I think he is actually a player's coach. Just from my perspective from hearing from Ohio State players.
Yeah. Well, and that's fine. The players like him, but does that mean that 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who are trying to decide where to go, are they seeing that? Are they getting that same feel from him? I don't know. But I'm just saying, as like someone who watches his games, he's not somebody who like excites me. I'm like, yeah, like I can't wait to see what he does next, or like he's not fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Fun to watch. Here's where we'll end. Regardless of what happens this year, what games are played, what's not, who's in, college football is fun to watch. College football is fun to be a part of. It's fun to do this podcast. College football is still the best thing that's happened in the year 2020.
You're right about that.
So, and doing this podcast is an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Absolute pleasure to be here with Tim Jones. And this episode is absolutely over. Thank you all so much for being a part of our show today. Don't forget to give us a like, comment, follow. Check us out on Twitter. I've actually got the Twitter back up. So if you want to give us a comment on Twitter, I'll be there. I'll respond. On Facebook, where we are mostly. And just the show is a lot of fun. And so hopefully you had fun with us, and we'll catch you next time.
And go Gators.